Hey guys, Shawn here, and this is the editing PC that I've been using for the past 3 years. Now, it's been doing well, but not exactly great, especially when it comes to editing 4K footage. Now, editing 4K footage on this computer isn't exactly possible. As you can see, scrubbing through the footage itself is a bit laggy, and that really affects my workflow. So what I usually do is to edit in proxy. For those of you who don't know what editing in proxy means, it's basically creating a low resolution file of the footage, using that to edit so that it's a lot smoother, and then converting it back to a high resolution when you're exporting the file. Now this of course takes a lot of time at the beginning as I have to convert all my files into proxy files. Now the second major issue that I'm facing is when I'm exporting my finished video. Now this can take a long time, sometimes even hours, depending on how heavy the file is or how much animated graphics there are on the video. So I reached out to the good people at Dreamcore to share my struggles and pain. It's been about 3 years since I built this computer, and I think it's about time to explore what new technologies are available for creators like myself. So let's head over to Dreamcore to see what they can do.
Hey guys, so I just got a call from one of the local content creators here in Singapore, and he was telling me about some of the PC woes he has been having. I'm glad he has reached out because we've been a huge fan of his work for some time now. We've actually briefly mentioned him in one of our earlier fireside chats with James Peters from Technobabble, and he's none other than the only Shawn Koh. He's also an architect by training, but also does a ton of cool tech reviews. You can find out more about him on his YouTube and Instagram, and I'll be putting those links in the description below, so do be sure to check him out. He's going to come by the studio shortly, so before he gets here, let me just speak a little bit about what I had in mind. So pulling up the specs of his current system, we can quickly see why he's experiencing stuttering and slow performance. He has been using a first generation Ryzen 1600 paired with a high-end GTX 1080 GPU. He also has 16GB of DDR4 2400MHz, which we all know doesn't work too well with first gen Ryzen due to how the AMD 1600 scales with memory frequency. And of course, the 2400MHz is indeed on the lower end of the spectrum. Based on his current requirements of a 4K video editing and live playback workstation, with additional color grading layers, those specs certainly do not make the cut, and in fact makes for a huge resource hog. He has managed to get by thus far by editing via proxies, but honestly, who likes to edit via proxies? Now, taking all this information into context, and since we have access to a huge variety of PC gear, I've decided to quickly throw something together to show him just how far technology has progressed over the last 3 years. The system of choice is built upon the latest Gen 3 Threadripper CPUs. Now, these are considered to be HEDT parts or high-end desktop parts from AMD. They are perfect for content creators like Shawn. These powerful CPUs break the mold in almost every single metric, and when they were first announced a year ago, we were blown away by just how much performance one could squeeze out of them. Even 1 year later, they are still the undisputed content creator's dream CPU. Now, Threadripper comes in 3 flavors, namely the 3960X, 3970X, and the 3990X, which have 24 cores, 32 cores, and 64 cores respectively. To put things in context, most consumer CPUs only have 4 to 8 cores at most, so you can already imagine how much power they've managed to squeeze onto a single chip. The CPUs are built on the latest Gen 7nm dies, and in the case of the 3970X, clocks up to 4.5 GHz and has a massive 128 MB of L3 cache. When paired with a suitable motherboard such as the MSI TRX40, it supports up to 256 GB of DDR4 memory in quad-channel configuration and supports insane amounts of I/O like 4 PCIe 4 X16 slots for multi-GPU setups, 3 to 4 PCI Gen 4 X4 M.2 slots for a ton of storage options. When you throw in USB 3.2 Gen 2 and 10 gigabits per second Ethernet, you get a truly serious productivity platform. Now, all this power is housed in a beautiful Reverie workstation from Dreamcore, based on the Fractal Design Define 7 Compact, a sleek case with sound dampening panels, and a workstation-focused platform. Now, Shawn should be here any minute now, so let's go grab him. Hey Shawn, welcome to the show. It's truly great to finally have you on. I think we're big fans of you so far.
Thanks.
So we've briefly covered the specs of your current PC, but just to recap, do tell us a little bit more about yourself and what kind of content you're trying to create.
Sure. Thanks for having me here. It's been great. I basically make YouTube videos reviewing a lot of tech gadgets and gear, surrounding myself with a lot of these everyday tech items that I like to talk about. And basically, I make a lot of videos also for campaigns, brand stuff, and edit videos. Yeah, I love doing that.
Okay, and I mean, you are currently using what I know a Trio system.
Yes.
What sort of problems or obstacles or bottlenecks are you facing right now with the system with your current workload?
Alright, so 3 years old isn't very new for a computer, it's pretty old.
That's true.
And the main bottleneck is actually when I'm firstly importing videos. Editing in 4K isn't really possible on my computer. I kind of have to do proxy files, which is making lower resolution files, editing on it, and then replacing it after that. So that's extra steps already. And also when I'm exporting, it takes a long time. So usually I'm going to sleep or, just doing something else in the meantime. So that's the main bottleneck, editing. It's a lot longer than actually filming the product.
Okay, so you would say your the biggest bottlenecks that you face are having the extra step of creating those proxy files and also having to wait a long time after you click that export button.
Yes, exactly.
Is that correct? Okay, cool. So I think we can definitely help you out with something like that. And I've already put together sort of a sample system to solve some of the problems that you've talked about earlier. And it's based on AMD's 3rd generation Threadripper platform. And I think this is really amazing, and I think it's great for content creators. I'm just going to highlight 4 main points that will benefit you and other content creators like yourself.
Awesome.
Let's
go.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so the first one that we're going to talk about is actually I/O, and a Threadripper platform really, gives content creators a huge ton of I/O. Do you know what I/O is?
No, what does it stand for?
Input output.
Input output. All right. So
any inkling at all, or any?
So that's taking in the video, the raw video, and what coming out of the computer.
Yeah, I mean you can put it that way simply. Yeah. Okay, so I think what Threadripper really gives content creators like yourself is an increase in I/O capabilities. And what you're talking about is anything from having more USB drives, or to faster storage, or to more PCIe lanes. Not only having a sheer quantity, but the throughput is also much higher. So the question I have for you is actually, how are you currently consuming your media, or where is your scratch disk? Or
so basically, usually I import my footage from the camera into the computer directly, and it's usually on my storage hard drive, which is built into the computer already, and that's where I edit off from. So I try not to edit off external hard drives because I kind of know that it's a bit slower. But at the same time, it's not exactly super fast on my computer either. Yeah, so I kind of have to clear storage quite often on my computer just to get it going. Yeah.
And do you know what sort of storage device you're using? I mean, you're importing it in, but is it like a HDD or SSD or?
It is a 4 terabyte HDD, the hard drive. Yeah, that's what I'm using.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think what Threadripper platform allows content creators like yourself is really very, a broad spectrum of things. Like you have more USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, and those ports really give you, almost Thunderbolt-like speeds. Thunderbolt is traditionally like a Intel and Mac collaboration. It's rare to see on AMD platforms, but they do exist. But I think that is something that can definitely benefit your workflow.
So more inputs at a higher speed, basically. Oh, cool.
It can support both sheer quantity of and as well as the bandwidth increase. Awesome. So what we'll really talk about next is storage device. So you briefly mentioned storage for you, and what I'm going to talk about next is really what Threadripper and AMD systems have to offer, which is PCIe Gen 4 storage, and this is only applicable on AMD systems. So you mentioned earlier that you are using a 4 terabyte hard drive.
Yes.
How has it worked out for you? Is it fast, slow, or you're sort of used to it, so it's not really...
I know it can be faster.
But
I'm kind of used to it. That's what. Yeah.
So I have some drives with me right now.
And
I'm just gonna guess you know what they are. So I'll just pass them to you. Maybe you can make a guess.
Alright. So this is the most familiar one to me, which is like the 3.5 inch hard drive. Yeah. This is the one that I know how to install it on my own. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, this one is the very common one that you see at IT shows and stuff like that. The next one, it says solid state drive. So this is the SSD, right? I can read, right? So the SSD, I think it came out, I don't know when, a couple of years ago, and it was really expensive at the start, but now it's getting more affordable. Obviously, it's less mechanical, I would guess, and a lot lighter. and more stable. That's all I know about it.
Okay.
And faster.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. The last one, I presume this is storage, but it's really tiny compared to the rest of all these guys. So what exactly? Wait, can I read it?
Yeah, you can read it.
Doesn't say much. Doesn't say much. What is this?
Okay, we'll go through it one by one.
Alright.
I think, so what you mentioned is you do have a 3.5 inch 4 terabyte, and this is also a 4 terabyte from Western Digital.
Yep.
This is, I wouldn't say OG, but technically this is the OG of hard drives now. These are what you find in most older systems. But what they do offer is a huge amount of space
Yep.
for a very cheap price. And that's why they're still popular for storing things like videos and photos.
Yep.
The downside is that it only runs at about 100 to 200 megabytes per second, which in today's context is pretty slow. So moving on, so when you're editing
That's
4K
what I'm
videos,
using right now. Alright, alright.
even as a scratch disk, it is pretty slow. So moving on, we get to the SSD.
Yep.
So this is a SATA SSD.
Okay.
So this is 2.5 inch, and it basically has speeds of 500 to 600 megabytes per second.
500 to 600. So that's almost double speed of.
Double or triple.
Double or triple.
The what you get with a 3.5
Okay.
inch hard drive.
Yep.
So just by upgrading your entire platform to an all SSD system, you're already going to get increase in performance, increase in productivity gains.
All right, nice.
Right.
So that's step one, I guess.
Yeah, step one. And because NAND prices are sort of coming down,
Yeah.
these are actually very, very common now rather than the 3.5
Yeah.
inch.
Okay.
So now we get to this gum stick M.2 form factor. So this part is a bit tricky because the format which it comes in can actually be the same as the 2.5 inch SATA drive. So this is called the M2 form factor,
Yeah.
and it does come in a SATA configuration or the faster NVMe configuration.
NVMe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a SATA configuration, as we mentioned, is about 5 to 600 MB per second.
5 to 600.
The NVMe one can go up to 3,500 MB per second.
3,000.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump. Is it? Wait. So this can go up to 3,000. The NVMe.
Yes, the NVMe version.
3,000, and I was using something that was 200. So
Yes.
what's my math?
I don't know, what is it, 15 times?
15 times. That's insane. That's insane.
So just consider this when you are transferring files from anywhere, from one drive to the next. You're effectively gaining a 15x performance
Yes.
just by using a new technology.
Wow, that's insane.
Okay, so Threadripper has something else up its sleeve, which is PCIe Gen 4 NVMe.
Okay.
That is up to 7,000 MB per second.
7,000. That's. I mean, I've been using something that's going at 200 MB per second, and you're telling me that there's something at 7,000.
Exactly. So
That's
that's really
insane.
how far technology has come
My gosh.
since you first built your PC.
I've
3
been
years
left in the
ago.
dust, man. Wow.
Definitely.
Oh.
So now you know that all these speeds are available to you. Most people may think it's just trivial. How fast can I transfer my torrented, illegal downloaded movie from one disk to another? But I think it's a little. It goes a bit deeper than that. Especially for content creators who are working with large raw files like yourself.
Yep.
So now you're doing proxy, so that's really fine. But when you're doing live editing on 4K video files, raw, and especially when you have 8K video files like Samsung S21,
Yep.
even S20 already has
It's all
8K.
coming up.
And you also have 12K from the new Blackmagic 12K camera. And if you're gonna edit all those things in RAW on a scratch disk, you definitely want the 7,000 MB per second.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of future-proofing yourself a bit. I mean, doing proxy is basically putting a band-aid on a blister kind of thing. It's not really solving anything.
Exactly.
I'm definitely way behind, and if it can cut down on all the lagging through scrubbing through my footage, I think that's simply amazing. 7,000.
We'll try to get you a 7,000 MB per second.
All right, he said it.
As no. So come on to the third highlight and third feature of Threadripper is actually its high frequency core of the CPU. So traditionally, when AMD Ryzen first came out, they were known for giving
a lot of cores to consumers, everyday consumers. Back then, I think what was very popular and what was normal was something like a 4-core CPU from Intel. When AMD came onto the scene, they immediately gave everyone a 6-core CPU. That in itself already opened up many doors for content creators because you could export faster, you could game and stream at the same time. So it really gave back to content creators and gave them a lot of opportunities. But what we're talking about now is that, even though they gave a large number of cores to people, the frequency of each call was a bit slower than what was available then. So something like your 1600 AMD first generation Ryzen CPU had 6 cores, but it didn't perform very fast.
Yeah, okay.
So even when you're doing like live playback or you're playing games like you like to play Valorant, right?
Valorant, yeah.
It's not going to be as fast as an Intel counterpart.
Okay.
So all this changed now with Ryzen 3, as well as the 3rd gen Ryzen Threadripper. And they've really changed the game by giving everyone more cores at a higher clock.
So individual cores that are running better while still giving that multitasking ability.
So your 1600, for example, has 6 cores and 12 threads. The AMD Threadripper we're talking about and what I plan to show you later has 24 cores and 48 threads.
48 threads.
Yeah.
Okay, 24 cores. So that's already 4 times more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they also have a 32 core version as well as a 64 core version.
64?
Yeah, 128 threads.
Wow, okay. So 6 core is really old news by then.
Wouldn't say old news, but yes, if you are a content creator specifically or a professional user, having more cores for your rendering workloads will definitely boost your game.
So it's still definitely valid for just regular daily use, you'd say, but for anything more rendering videos, high performance stuff, graphics and things like that, you would recommend more cores.
More cores. So I mean, AMD themselves have a range of number of cores for different users. They have 8 core, they have 12, 16. Yeah. So really just pick and choose what you want rather than having the most, because it doesn't mean, for example, if you use Photoshop or Lightroom, having more cores is not going to help improve your work.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay, so
nice.
I think let's go on to the 4th one, which is actually what we sort of talked about. It's the high core count.
Okay.
This is both the high core count as well as the number of PCI lanes. And this will greatly benefit content creators because the number of cores will actually improve your export render times.
Nice.
So just imagine, I think what we're talking about, your current PC can render your timeline. I think you brought a timeline for us.
Yes.
What was it?
It was rendering about a 10-minute video. It took 24 minutes.
Okay, so I think if we do a little quick math, having 24, 32 cores will basically 4x,
Nice.
8x your export time.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is predominantly for Premiere Pro. But AMD Threadripper also supports more GPUs, has a lot of lanes, which can be distributed evenly across, for example, a 4 GPU setup.
Okay.
And other, NLEs like DaVinci Resolve will be able to make use of multi-GPU setups easily to really, really improve the render times.
Nice. Okay. So more utilizing more of the GPU effectively.
Yeah. And not all systems can make use of multi-GPU setups. If you get something like your what you have currently, you can't put another one into your system.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now we've gone through some of the highlights of the Threadripper series. What do you think of it? Does it work for you?
I think what you've covered really encompasses everything that has to do with editing the video. Getting the footage into your computer, that takes time. Not doing proxy. I would love to do without doing proxies. Obviously, editing itself, scrubbing through footage seamlessly, and of course the exporting, which sometimes takes a lot of time. And of course that piles up and bottlenecks into deadlines and things like that. So yeah, I think all these 4 highlights that you brought up is very important, and any one of these could improve my workload. Yeah.
And this is only really possible with AMD's 3rd generation Threadripper. Okay, so now that's said and done, specs aside, what we've actually done is to get one of Shawn's recent Premiere Pro project files. We ran the export on his current PC, and like we mentioned earlier, it took around 23 minutes for a 10-minute project timeline. What we're going to do now is to import and run his files and see what type of improvements we can expect on this Threadripper system that we expect for him. Now, just a caveat, this isn't an apples to apples comparison. He was running AMD first generation 1600 with a 1080, which is a pretty decent graphics card. What we're doing here is a Threadripper 3970 as well as a 5700X. And it's just really to see how far technology has progressed from the time he's built his computer till now.
Nice. I have very high hopes for that.
Now I stress. Maybe we run already is slower, bro.
No. I believe in you. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump to the editing station.
Alright, so this is the computer that I'm trying it on. So just scrubbing through the footage, it's a lot smoother, and definitely because it's in 4K, it's quite impressive. I'm not using any proxy and this is in full resolution, so that's pretty smooth. I can still edit really well. There's still adjustment layers on there, so that's good. And of course, the main test is the exporting. So I'm going to export this 10-minute video using my export settings. Same as the one that we did previously, sequence 1. Alright, let's hit the timer. Let's bring this to the side. We're going to hit the timer and hit export and go.
2 hours later.
Alright, and we're done. Just under 11 minutes for this 23-minute video. I mean, that's half of what that's half the time of what I would have done on my computer. Wow. Wow, that's very impressive. Nice.
Okay, so after going through Shawn's timeline, we can really see the benefits of Threadripper. Number one, we can save time on exports, and that's extremely important for content creators. You can also save time without having to do proxies, and a high core count and high fast frequency of the CPUs can really enable live playback. And what's most important is the more time saved is the more time spent being creative. So Shawn, what do you think about what you've just experienced?
I think it is pretty amazing what technology is able to do. Like what you said, I can spend so much more time doing something else creative, thinking, concept for the next project, rather than spending time creating proxies and waiting for my file to be rendered. I mean, yeah, definitely eye-opening. So, big question. How much does this cost?
I'm glad you asked.
Nice.
Well, the cost of such a system is around 6,000 to 7,000 Singapore dollars. Obviously, it may vary upwards.
Upwards, okay. Okay.
That seems pretty high for a PC, but considering all the time and frustration that you actually save, and the fact you're actually getting enterprise components in a HDD setup, it's honestly just amazing, especially for content creators and professionals where time is money.
Definitely.
I think Threadripper is the perfect way to go. And honestly, that's all we have for today's video, and we hope, like Shawn, you've learned something about AMD Gen 3 Threadripper. If you want to learn more about Shawn and the work that he does, do check him out at the links in the description below. Once again, thanks for being on the show, and let's definitely catch up again.
Yes, this was awesome. Very eye-opening to the technology that's available today. So I can't wait to get these things from you.
So you would say you are like a tech guru, or
A bit lah.
a bit?
Yes.
Okay. What's the extent? Because you seem to know a lot about camera gear and...
So that's the difference, isn't
Okay.
it? Like, I know how to make the videos, but not things after that.
I see.
I pay people to
Like us.
do that for me. Yeah. If you can't do it, pay someone to do it.
That's true. Now what do we do? Who can we pay? Okay, so if you have an existing PC that you'd like to upgrade or find out options for your next build, like Shawn, don't forget to hit us up at www.dreamcore.com.sg. That's www.dreamcore.com.sg, and we'll get you the best configuration for your dollar. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications. With that, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, so now that we've already... Oh, sorry.
Amateur hour. Oh, wow. My thread got ripped. That's not how it works.